We're back. Real Matrix. Dale Hellestray along with the Angry Patriot. We're going over the fact that a lot of the story that we heard on 9/11 really doesn't make a lot of sense. And we've given you video proof, fact after fact after fact. You missed out last week. It was just factual show, scientifically showing the things that they said couldn't have happened. Could not have happened at all. Then you heard a little bit of a clip of John Gross there saying they didn't really look for controlled demolition. They felt like, well, didn't matter. You saw it come down. We don't need to explain it. It just happened. And he also said, he said something else. But the point is, whatever he said is a bunch of nonsense, because I think in the next clip, we're going to show how when you're listening to him talk, there's two options. He's either the most inept person on the planet, or he's covering up the truth and not wanting to know. It is a story they're coming up with that is pre-planned, that is incorrect. They're lies. It's all lies. It's one or the other. He's either a lying, cover-up, leading criminal, or he's the most inept person dealing with the most inept investigation in the history of man. So you tell me after we see this next clip.
And our conclusion is that the building should not have fallen that rapidly if indeed fire caused the collapse. And in fact, there's one mechanical engineer, Gordon Ross, in the Journal of 911 Studies, who's done a thorough analysis based on conservation momentum.
If the official story was correct, then the heating that was supposed to cause the failure would have been a much slower event, and it would have been an asymmetric event. For the tower to collapse straight down onto itself flies in the face of what we know about steel and how steel behaves. When we have a failure in one area, then the failures tend to continue within that area, and you'd see an asymmetric collapse, possibly the upper section falling off as it twisting away from the tower and falling off. But it's very unusual to see the upper section falling straight through the path of the greatest resistance, which was straight down through the middle of the tower. It just does not add up.
2. Molten metal exceeding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit was discovered in the rubble of Ground Zero, underneath the Twin Towers and Building 7. Even with heavy rain on September 14th and 21st, a constant stream of fire retardants and water, described as creating a giant lake, these fires would not be extinguished until December 13th, 2001, making it the longest burning structural fire in history. Was the jet fuel responsible? Dr. Frank Gale, who was working with NIST, claimed in 2005. Your gut reaction would be that the jet fuel melted the steel. Indeed, it did not. The steel did not melt.
The temperatures that we know existed within the collapse within the debris pile are physically impossible from an atmospheric jet fuel fire. Cannot be done.
I'm curious about the pool of molten steel that was found in the bottom of the towers.
I am too.
And
Please tell me about it. Have you seen it?
Well, not personally, but eyewitnesses there found huge pools of molten steel beneath the towers, and some scientists don't think that the collapse of the building could have melted all that steel.
First of all, let's go back to your basic premise that there was a pool of molten steel. I know of absolutely nobody, and no eyewitness who said so, nobody who's produced it. I was on the site, I was on the steel yards, so I don't know that that's so.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails. Like you're in a foundry. Like lava.
From a volcano.
Underground, it was still so hot that molten metal dripped down the sides of a wall from Building 6.
However, they do hit hot spots occasionally, and everything stops.
There were fires of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit below the ground.
I don't know that that's so.
There's video of
mounted
it.
around 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it's probably pretty difficult to get that kind of temperatures in a fire.
Well, NASA pictures, thermal images showed those sorts of temperatures in the basement.
Would you send them to me?
Okay.
That'd be good.
My name is Mark, and I'm the individual who was questioning Dr. Gross, and he asked me to email to him those thermal images. When I approached him after his talk to get his email address for that purpose, he refused to provide it to me. I think this is important because it reveals the attitude of the NIST investigators, which is one of willful ignorance of what really happened on 9/11.
As well as the molten metal in the debris, it was also observed prior to the South Tower's collapse. Also, a minute and 20 seconds before collapse, large amounts of white smoke begin pouring from the base of the South Tower. Three, the concrete, and in fact, virtually everything except the metal inside the Twin Towers was pulverized as the building collapsed. This pulverized material created pyroclastic dust clouds that raced down city streets, coating lower Manhattan in a fine dust. Pyroclastic clouds generally occur during two events: volcanic eruptions and controlled demolitions.
So, okay. More information?
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at it, you go, well, now that is starting to make sense.
You got to add it all up.
And why? Well, now from your theory, the reason why they deny everything is because then it would lead people to go back and look at it and study it.
So some of the things I want to point out in there, you saw the one part where smoke was coming up from the bottom.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. When they said that, obviously from that angle, it was hard to see.
And if you look at it closely, you can see it.
Yeah, but at that time, nobody's looking down.
No,
everybody's looking up.
In the clip earlier of the show, in the first half, remember they said all the windows were blown out on the bottom floor.
Right.
What would cause that? I mean, because the windows weren't blown out halfway through.
No.
So you mean the plane went in at the 100th floor and the windows got blown out at the bottom?
And between 99 and 3, nothing happened? No, that's very curious.
Doesn't make any sense. You have to add up all the information. And then, the point is, as you saw, the fires underneath the ground were over 2,000 degrees. How long do you think jet fuel lasts? I mean, we shouldn't have any problem flying all over the world. You just need a drop or two of jet fuel because these airplane jet fuels burn for a month. But it didn't, because the jet fuel had nothing to do with that. You didn't see the last show. I'll go over it again for people that missed that also. You can bring down a building, not only with detonated charges like they did, but a product called thermite.
Yeah.
Thermite is a chemical reaction that burns at 4,500 degrees. 4,500 degrees is certainly warm enough to melt metal, look like a foundry, and bring a building down, especially at its base where it's needed, because the building fall down, it doesn't have a base.
Right.
And you don't get thermite in a building unless it's wired for it, unless it is predetermined by maybe someone who wants to bring the building down.
Right.
Did you hear there? They watered that base of the ground for so much it became a lake. And the fires burned for 4 months. Allegedly, the fire didn't go out until December 13th, whatever it may be.
Okay.
How's that happen?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
All right.
But
Start taking notes. Dale.
okay, but
fact after fact after fact after
okay,
fact.
but tell me this again: if in fact that's the truth, why, because it wasn't like just one institution investigated this. There's a lot of them, and you're gonna tell to me it's like in the NFL draft when Shedeur Sanders drops to the 5th round, I've heard people go, the NFL got together and they decided, what, they're going to make him pay, and nobody's going to draft until the 5th round. You need so many people to buy into that for it to have even a chance of happening.
I will say this. Everyone keeps saying, no one could keep a secret. No one could keep a secret.
Yeah.
They couldn't do this. Whistleblowers come out every day and nothing happens. Nothing happens. You don't see, listen, we just saw how much corruption there was in the government by USAID?
Yeah.
They were billions of dollars
Yeah.
just wasted. It was corruption.
Yeah.
What's happened? Who's been arrested? Still, nothing happens. They slide it to the side and we move on because we as people in this country, we just go, what can we do? And we're worried about making it to the next day. We're worried about our jobs and our family and our enjoying our little time here while we have it. And we just forget about it.
But what I'm saying is you had to have multi-level entities investigating this.
Yeah. They're all in on it because, as I've said in the beginning of the show, and I will say later, everyone at the top, they have been putting in their people in place for over 100 years. Over 100 years. Maybe way past longer than that. And quickly, because we're going to run out of time, they pulled the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Those are the criminals behind all this. The bankers, the people behind the Federal Reserve Act. The Federal Reserve is not part of our government, and they run our money system.
Right.
Why can't we do that?
Why shouldn't we do that?
Correct. So, and they put that in place, that was in 1913. So it's well over 100 years ago, and that just didn't happen to drop the hat. They were working for years and years and years to start taking over the control of our country and put people in charge of these big non-elected organizations to do what they want, to follow their agenda. And when you say, well, how does people, these criminals control everything.
I understand that. Again, I just could keep going back to everybody's human, and when you if I can tell you something, I trust you. But now if I bring Riley into it and I bring Steve into it, the more people I tell, the more chance there is one of you are going to go tell somebody else. Else.
So when we tell someone, where's it going? Where's it going? If we're made out to be crackpots, listen, I can show you other videos. The families of the people who lost loved ones on 9/11, they were up in arms about this. They had groups. They wanted...
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, where'd it go? There's a lot of people that wanted better answers, and they knew that the answers they were given were BS.
Right.
Where'd it go? They don't care. They run and control everything. And again, if you're going to say, after all the evidence that I'm showing you, listeners, because if you saw the last show, this show, it's fact after fact after fact that what we were told was an outright lie. And I'm going to show you more in shows coming up. This is going to be exhaustive. It's going to be exhaustive. And I feel like I have to go over everything because I'll get these answers because I've been telling people this for years. I get these answers like, well, how did they keep it quiet? And listen, use your brain. Use your cognitive thinking and say, does this information make sense? And if you say, well, I don't know how they did it. Well, they did it. And you tell me a different way
but see,
that
that's
it could
the
have
thing.
happened.
First of all, don't ever make fun of me by trying to imitate me and
Was I doing that?
With your question. Anybody who questions you, and I just don't know how this could happen. That's what you went to. But
Well, you aren't the only one.
no,
You're not the only one. I get that all the time.
I'm not even questioning that it happened. What I'm questioning is how on God's green earth has it not gotten out through some entity, some group that actually looked into it?
It has. These videos were made 20 years ago. It's not now. These videos were made 20 years ago. Have you seen it in the last 20 years?
No.
How did you not see it? Because everyone is asleep. Everyone is asleep. Everyone is sheeple, and they just follow the narrative. You need to step out of the sheeple group and use your critical thinking. It's that simple. And that's why for people who are watching or listening, you need to show this to other people. And you need to ask them, how is what you're hearing here a lie or an untruth? And how is the narrative that you've been told, how can that possibly have happened? So we're running out of time. We got to go to the next clip. Riley, play it up.
Steel beams weighing up to 200,000 pounds were thrown laterally up to 500 feet. A cross-section from the World Trade Center, weighing approximately 300 tons, was embedded in the southeastern corner of the American Express building. This piece would have had to travel at least 390 feet, maintaining enough kinetic energy to embed itself.
Okay. How's that happen? Because when something collapses, it might be, but it's not going to shoot out like you're spitting a watermelon seed. 300 feet to embed itself in whatever that building's made of, steel, concrete, whatever. How's that happen?
Yeah.
How's it happen?
Well, physics, I took my physics class in college.
Yes.
It tells you the kinetic energy.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I know the whole football team there already figured all this stuff out scientifically and mathematically.
That does not make sense.
No, doesn't make sense.
No.
I'm going to... And so again, you heard early on when the building came down, you heard the lady said, it was like firecrackers, like 4th of July.
Right.
Now, we weren't really told there was a lot of explosions. Where would the explosions come from? It's not like the building's all made of gas pipes or whatever.
Right.
And once one explosion, how many explosions can you have? So, let's play, this is a long clip, and it, again, goes over all the explosions. And again, if a building just came down because of fire and an airplane, where would the explosion come from? Where would the constant explosions come from?
Well, again, in my little mind, I'm thinking if a building gets hit by a plane and it's going to start to collapse, it's going to fall over.
Yeah, or fall, just the top will fall
Yeah.
off. Yeah. Well, all right. So explain to me this next clip where they talk about the explosions. Go ahead, Riley. Play it.
Firefighters and eyewitnesses reported a series of explosions before and during the collapses.
And we heard the noise associated with an implosion.
Secondary explosion on Tower 2.
Some sort of explosive device.
We're obviously having a bit of trouble right now maintaining our location because we just heard one more explosion.
There was another major explosion.
Do you know anything about those extra explosions we heard?
No, I do not.
Were they car bombs?
I have no idea, ma'am.
The street shook, and I heard like an explosion.
Do you know if it was an explosion or if it was a building collapse? To me, it sounded like an explosion. We heard a very loud blast, an explosion. They were taking photographs and securing this area just prior to that huge explosion that we all heard and felt. Not clear now is why this explosion took place. When there was some sort of collapse or explosion,
from street level as though it had exploded up, a giant rolling ball of flame, and the firefighters screamed, "Run!"
It was this blast of warm air. It wasn't hot. It was warm. And it picked me up and threw me up against the wall of the building.
You were picked up off the ground.
Physically picked up off the ground.
I remember an explosion. At that point, I got knocked out. I don't remember anything. Then I got up, and I looked out the window because the windows exploded, and the street below caved in. And at that point, there was like fireballs coming up.
An hour later than that, we had that big explosion from much, much lower. I don't know what on earth caused that.
About 15 minutes after they made their entry, we heard a boom. I don't know if that was the infrastructure that was going or another explosion.
Again, there has been a second explosion.
John, just seconds ago there was a huge explosion, and it appears right now the second World Trade Tower has just collapsed.
All of a sudden I heard rumbling, and we all started running away from it. The glass blew out and threw me onto the sidewalk, and I couldn't see for 20 seconds.
It was like holy hell coming down them stairs. And then when we finally got to the bottom, they were coming out on the mezzanine level there. And another explosion came right from it, just everyone flying.
We stuck on the stairs for a while. We finally got down to the lobby. Then we get to the lobby, it was this big explosion.
So I was real lucky. I don't know what happened to the people behind me when that blast occurred.
And was actually on the 78th floor of the second tower and was evacuating the tower and experienced all these explosions and made his way back down.
We presume because of the initial explosion, there may have been secondary explosions as well that were detonated in the building by these terrorists.
There was a secondary explosion, probably a device either planted before or on the aircraft that did not explode until an hour later.
I heard a second explosion and another rumble and more smoke and more dust. I ran inside the buildings, the chandeliers shook, and again, black smoke filled the air. Within another 5 minutes, we were covered again with more silt and more dust. And then a fire marshal came in and said we had to leave because if there was a third explosion, this building might not last.
Eyewitnesses also reported that explosions had taken place in lower levels of both the North and South Tower.
They were having coffee in the World Trade Center when the first plane struck.
And all of a sudden it sounded like, I don't know where the subway is, but it sounded like a subway collision, a bomb, and it was just pounding, boom, 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 and I literally thought the subway had exploded. And
the ladies that are with me were in the World Trade Center in the first building and escaped through the lobby where they report they believe there was a bomb in the lobby.
Just get out of the tunnel and the blue.
The subway tunnel?
Yeah.
Yes, I was right there. I was down in the basement, came down, all of a sudden the elevator blew up, smoke. I dragged the guy out, his skin was hanging off, and I dragged him out, and I helped him out to the ambulance.
And when I got up to the concourse level, it was just like, like gunfire, and then just 3 big explosions.
And even the turnstile was burnt and was sticking up, and they just told us to run.
I heard the first explosion, and the elevator blew up.
And as we were coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first, and a couple of seconds then the first plane hit.
Firefighter John Schroeder arrived in the lobby of the North Tower shortly after the first plane struck.
So we're standing there in the lobby, we're getting all together. All of a sudden, we hear... I look down to my right, and the elevator's exploded, something out of like a Bruce Willis Die Hard movie. People just come running out of the elevators, on fire, fireball. I mean, it was like, what is going on here? Something's up here. I mean, the plane's up there, now there's fire down here. People run around, all on fire. This is crazy. So we were heading up to the 24th floor of the stairwell, and all of a sudden we heard, Mayday, Mayday, second plane, second plane. Swift, we're looking at each other like, come on, second plane? There's no way there's a second plane. Within seconds, our building got rocked. We got bounced around in the stairwell like pinballs, man. And we just said, you know what? Time to go. We got down to the lobby, and everything was blown out, exploded. Everything was... And we were the only ones in the lobby now. We're going, wait a second here. Where is everybody? Because the building was coming down the outside. They moved the command post to World Trade Center, too. So now we're like, we didn't get no, where is everybody? We were in the lobby. It looks like everything was exploded. Everything was gone. We're like, what is going on here? We didn't know. We were like, this is crazy. But for every window in the lobby to be exploded, I mean, them windows were like as thick as forget it. They were 2-3-inch glasses, you know, come on. They exploded out of the lobby, you know, something, it wasn't from the jet fuel. No way. The elevators exploded, they were down from the lobby. The lobby was over here. That should never have happened. Something would happen there, and that wasn't. We came down, it looked like a bomb went off in the lobby. There was no fire, it just looked like a bomb went off.
That's a lot of eyewitness reports about explosions.
Oh yeah. Who you can sit here in Arizona in 2025 and argue against them?
Right. Those are real life American people who were there.
And that's a firefighter.
You can listen to them, or you can listen to the guys in the government who are behind the investigations, or the people are politicians that say, "Oh, it was terrorists." Doesn't make any sense. That just flew a plane into the building, and somehow, just luckily, it came down straight down. You're catching on. I tell you what, I got another bit of information here. I think, Riley, play the next clip. We'll go over this real quickly.
On top of all of this, human remains were discovered up to 400 feet away from the South Tower, on the roof of the Deutsche Bank building. 300 bone fragments were discovered between April 7th and 14th, 2006, and more are expected to be found.
So, again, the building just came down, or the buildings exploded, and those unfortunate people in the towers, their remains are on the top of other buildings next to the World Trade Center.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, obviously it sounds like there was bombs detonated.
That's right. No doubt about it. And our government never said there was any bombs there. No. There was any these were terrorists who just flew a plane in. Nothing happened. Nothing to see here, folks. Just move on. Go on with your life. We'll handle it. And then, they talk about fire. Fire brought it down. These buildings had asbestos in it. That is fire retardant. Riley, play the next clip.
During the World Trade Center's construction, spray-on fireproofing comprised of concrete and asbestos was placed on the core columns. When asbestos was outlawed in 1971, they ceased this procedure at the 64th floor of the South Tower. The Port Authority eventually realized that the asbestos presented a problem, and demolition was not an option. In 1989, the Port Authority estimated the removal of asbestos from both the World Trade Center and LaGuardia Airport would have cost up to $1 billion. By 2001, the cost for the World Trade Center buildings alone would have met or exceeded $1 billion. This money would sadly not be needed.
So, you got a building with asbestos. How do you get it out of there? It's going to cost you $1 billion. Larry Silverstein, the owner. It's going to cost you $1 billion. What do you do? Well, you know what? What a great stroke of luck if you actually have a couple of airplanes hit them and they come down, and now you have insurance to rebuild them, and you don't have to worry about the asbestos.
There's a lot of things you put together, and at some point you go, that can't be coincidence.
You didn't even see the last Dale, and we haven't even touched on the airplane that went into the Pentagon, the alleged airplane that went into the Pentagon, and the airplane that allegedly crashed in Pennsylvania. Both are allegedly. The next coming shows, I'm going to show you how that is incorrect and all lies.
Well, hold on. The one that landed in the field, there was that book written about it. Let's go.
These are lies, Dale. I'm going to show you how they're lies.
I'll be interested. You're going to have some convincing to do.
Just add it all up. They're all lies. Everything you've been told is a lie. You're catching the real truth here on The Real Matrix. So we got a couple more clips. I want to get to them before we get it. So, Riley, we got two more left. Play one of them here.
FEMA's Building Performance Assessment Team was not even granted access to Ground Zero. They were granted a tour of the site in early October, but were forbidden from collecting samples or examining blueprints.
So what they're saying is there was no investigation of were there any explosives on the residue, and they took all that rubble, shipped it out to China. Get the heck out of here! No, I don't want anyone looking at it. They were very, very hush hush about getting that stuff out of there.
That's another thing that doesn't add up. Why wouldn't you?
Right. And well, I tell you what, our last clip kind of just shows how this was a cover-up, at least the way I see it. I don't know how anyone else can see it another way. Play it, Riley.
How was the largest and most puzzling architectural failure in history treated? The steel from the World Trade Center was mostly shipped overseas, eliminating any possibility of independent investigations. New York City's Department of Design and Construction contracted 4 companies for debris removal. Each was assigned a specific zone and controlled and monitored by a 3-person team. The operation was so controlled that in November, each dump truck used for removal of debris was fitted with a GPS locator. One driver took an extended lunch break and was dismissed from the job. By April 2002, over 185,000 tons of debris had been removed from Ground Zero. FEMA's Building Performance Assessment Team was not even granted access to Ground Zero. They were granted a tour of the site in early October, but were forbidden from collecting samples or examining blueprints.
Oh, I mean, that's a cover-up.
Yeah, everything that you pointed out looks more and more and more suspicious.
And we're really just scratching the surface, unfortunately. Unfortunately.
Okay.
So, I definitely, I know you'll probably be interested about the planes. And a lot of people say, I think we've got a minute here. I'm not really sure how much time we got left, but
doesn't matter to you.
Nah, whatever. What about all those people in the plane? This is a theory that those planes went into the building without any people in them. They were flown remote control wise. We have that technology. Our military has had that technology for years and years. As a matter of fact, if you want to look something up, I don't have the information. I can't show you here. But there was a operation during the Bay of Pigs or during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The military came up with an option for John F. Kennedy, president, and said it was called Operation Northwoods. And what they were going to do is they were going to fly remote control planes into either buildings or crash them. And say the Cubans did it. And then that would allow us to go to war with them. John F. Kennedy nixed that. But that was back in 1962. We had the capabilities of flying a plane remotely. So if we had it in 62, I'm certain we had that ability to do that. And as a matter of fact, I've seen other clips of them remote control flying planes before 2001.
So then why, again, when I'm sitting here looking at this, that book was written. That guy talked to his wife. He was on the plane. He died.
Yeah. You know who
Did he
else
just disappear? Did he go to the Bay of Pigs?
Well, I'll tell you this. I can't diagnose everything, but I think in one clip they show how one of the people on the planes was some spokesman's wife, or she was in the government. This guy was in the government. What an easy way to get rid of your wife. Kill her and say, she was on the plane. Listen, it's dark. I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying, and we're going to see this in other clips later. The 2 airplanes that actually took off, or, they only had, they were full a third full. And the first flight of the day. People, and this was during the work week.
Right.
Work week people are flying out first flight. They want to get going. A third full. And most of the passengers were affiliated in the government, whether it be CIA, intelligence, whatever. How's that happen? It's just a weird coincidence, Dale. Weird coincidence. But we're going to take our time, and we're going to talk about that in shows upcoming. We just have so much information, so little time. So, again, like I said, it's not easy to digest. It's hard to believe. You can't wrap your head around it. Most people say it's impossible that we could get away with this, as Dale said. But look at the facts of exactly what happened and the laws of physics, how the buildings came down and how they couldn't have come down. And then you tell me what you believe. There's an interesting, so I don't know. If you take the red pill, you'll go down this path and you'll realize sometimes it's not too late to take the blue pill and go back to your dreamland and not worry about this. But the less we worry about this will allow them to pull this again. They're going to pull it again. They just pulled it 5 years ago with COVID. They just did it again. And I promise you, they will do it again if we don't start zeroing in on these criminals. Till next week. Thanks, Dale. This was The Real Matrix. Want to make your love life sizzle like a Phoenix summer? Summit Male Medical guarantees to help you with ED or premature issues, or we won't charge you. We've helped tens of thousands of patients here in the Valley since 2008. Please compare our most experienced medical staff and low-price treatments to anybody. If you've talked to the rest, it's time to come to the best. Put the sizzle back in your love life. 480-398-1000 or go to summitmalemedical.com. Summit Medical, love for life.